Hi folks, and welcome back to another episode of Creating Change. My name is Jillian Walsh. I'm the founder and the clinical director here at Change Creates Change Eating Disorder Care. And today's episode is going to be covering the top 3 signs of starvation syndrome. If you prefer to read about this information, feel free to head over to our website. We'll make sure that the link is in the description below. And if you're looking for some additional tips and tricks, there's going to be lots of videos to come, so stay tuned. And you can always hit the bell to get notified of our next video. But just in case, know that these tend to come out on a weekly basis. All right, so let's jump into the top 3 signs of starvation syndrome. But first, why don't we talk a little bit about what starvation syndrome is? So when we talk about starvation syndrome, we're talking about a physical health concern. It is something that happens to our physical body. It can be detected on blood work or on bone scans. It can be detected with a physical assessment, but it is something that occurs to our physical body. So when we talk about an eating disorder, yes, absolutely, it is a mental health concern. It starts with thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and core beliefs. But because the behaviors are related to eating, food, nutrition, this can very quickly snowball into a physical health concern as well. And most commonly, this shows up as starvation syndrome. Now keep in mind, starvation syndrome can basically affect folks of all ages, of all body shapes and sizes, as well as all eating disorder diagnoses. Traditionally, folks may think of starvation syndrome as synonymous with anorexia nervosa or being malnourished, underweight, how the media tends to portray folks with eating disorders. That is not the case. Starvation syndrome can affect folks of any body weight, of any body size, and of any eating disorder diagnosis. So keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about the top 3 signs of starvation syndrome, the first one we're going to get into is poor concentration. Starvation syndrome, of course, is going to impact the brain. The brain is not getting the energy it requires to function optimally, and this can present, or from the outside, it can look like poor concentration. Sometimes this is noticed by loved ones. It may be noticed by teachers, professors, trainers, coaches. Poor concentration tends to be a symptom or a sign that is reported by a second party. So what I mean by that, it's somebody external to the person living with the eating disorder. It's not overly common for somebody to bring forth a suspicion that they have an eating disorder by saying, okay, this is because of my poor concentration, and now the poor concentration shows me that I must be living with starvation syndrome. It tends not to be a self-oriented disclosure. It tends to be something that's reported by somebody in their circle, in their vicinity. So one thing to look for as a sign of starvation syndrome is poor concentration. A second sign of starvation syndrome is obsessive thoughts, especially around food, weight, body shape. Now, this is a sign that is often reported by the person living with the eating disorder. And they say, I just can't turn it off. I can't stop thinking about food or weight loss or body shape or nutrition or what I'm going to eat next or how I'm going to get rid of these calories. And it's just a constant circulation of thoughts. They simply can't turn it off. That obsessive thinking is one of the key signs of starvation syndrome as well. And of course, in the absence of proper nutrition, it's going to be very difficult to interrupt that obsessive thinking. It can be almost impossible to overcome those obsessive thoughts because the nutrition is just not on board at that point to be able to create new neural pathways and to have the energy to repair some of that distorted thinking patterns. And the final sign of starvation syndrome that we're going to talk about here today is dizziness or lightheadedness. Again, this is one that somebody living with an eating disorder tends to be able to self-report quite easily. And they tend to report it as, feeling lightheaded, feeling like they might be near fainting, feeling like they're getting really dizzy, especially going from sitting to standing or lying to standing. Again, this is a physical symptom of not having enough energy or nutrition on board. And the body is not able to stay on top of keeping the heart rate regulated, keeping the breathing rate regulated, and keeping blood pressure regulated. So what that feels like oftentimes is dizziness or lightheadedness. All right, that is the top 3 signs of starvation syndrome that we're going to talk about today. So just to recap, number 1 is poor concentration. Number 2 is obsessive thoughts, particularly around nutrition, food, weight, or shape. And third is dizziness or lightheadedness. This is not an all-encompassing list. There's lots of other signs of starvation syndrome. So if you want to learn more, head to our website. You can always book in for a free consultation call with myself, the clinical director, or you can peruse through the other blog posts that have a ton more information for you to read. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.